Hi, I'm John DeVore. Welcome to the channel. I am back from München. München? I'm sure I'm not pronouncing that right. I'm back from Munich, the high-end hi-fi show in Munich every year. I have exhibited for the past 3 or 4 years, but I did not exhibit this year. And I've talked about this before in a couple of videos before. But I switched to doing the Expona show in Chicago instead of the high-end show in Munich. They're too close together to do both. There's just no way, with shipping logistics and how small the company is and how few people there are working here. There's just no way to do both of those shows as exhibitors. But I did travel to Munich to walk the show. I had a bunch of meetings with my distributors, which is great. It's the only place I get to see my distributors, and to just see friends in the industry. It was also very interesting this year to compare and contrast Expona in Chicago with HighEnd in Munich. They're really different shows. Expona is growing massively, growing exponentially. No, not exponentially, but it is definitely a growing show. It has become the biggest U.S. hi-fi show. It is a consumer-oriented show, contrasting to a B2B show, business-to-business show, or an industry show. So there's a big difference, and the shows have different focuses depending on what they're trying to achieve. A consumer show is about letting the public in, letting the public experience a wide variety of hi-fi gear, to see and hear equipment that they don't have access to in their home markets. And it's a lot of fun. I meet a ton of customers that come in and tell me, which of our speakers that they have, or ask me questions about speakers. It's just really fun to meet a ton of enthusiastic customers, consumers. Not necessarily customers of DeVore Fidelity, but consumers of high-end audio. They're a lot of fun to do. It can be a little bit more tricky to try to conduct business at those shows because there's constant traffic of consumers who are in. A lot of them want to talk to you. A lot of them want to meet you, shake hands, selfies, or do they just have questions? And of course, the demos, you got to just keep the music playing, and you got to keep that flow of customers in and out of the room. So it can be a little tougher to conduct business meetings. You sort of have to, some exhibitors with bigger budgets will do multiple rooms, so that one room will just be meetings, one room will be demos, things like that. A B2B show, which in the U.S. there's a couple. There isn't really one for the high-end audio industry. There are a couple for custom installation hi-fi companies, things like that. CES, the Consumer Electronics Show, which used to be in Vegas every year, it still is in Vegas every year, but they used to have a considerable high-end audio presence, and the high-end audio industry at CES had several floors in one of the big hotels, and everyone would demonstrate in their own suite, and it was nice. You could really set up the suites. The suites were nice. They were in the Venetian. You could get really good sound. And what CES did, because CES is a big international show for a lot of business and a lot of customers, they would have the first day or two would be industry only. And so we would see a lot of international distributors would come in for those shows, and I would just catch up with all of my U.S. dealers who made it to Vegas for the show. And then they would open the doors for like Saturday and Sunday. They would open the doors to the public, and we would then see consumers. High-end audio was slowly and gradually sort of neglected, and then finally abandoned at CES. I think the high-end audio part of the show there is gone. High-end in Munich is interesting in that it is sort of both. HighEnd Munich does 2 days the industry, so they do B2B for 2 days, Thursday and Friday. And then Saturday and Sunday, they're open to the public. So I went. I had meetings on some meetings at the end of the day on Thursday because I flew in and I landed Thursday morning. And then meetings all day on Friday, and then I had a few of the remaining meetings I had Saturday morning. And all day Friday between meetings, I roamed around the show, and it was a good crowd. It was clearly the B2B crowd. It was a lot of distributors, reviewers, writers, dealers. The traffic was excellent. That show is very well attended. It's a huge show. I think attendance, the overall attendance of HighEnd Munich is about double the overall attendance of Expona. But then on Saturday, after I piled up all my meetings on Saturday, I piled them up in the morning, and then after about 12:30 or so, I was free. I was done with all my meetings. And so I walked around for a little bit, and this is the first time in years that I've been at the Munich show as a tourist, not as an exhibitor. And it was eye-opening. It was jammed. There were so many people. The density was staggering. And it was interesting to see because I'm used to seeing it from inside my little demo cabin, where I have groups coming in and groups coming out, and once in a while I'll have a little sit down outside the room and someone else will play music in the room, but you don't really get a sense from that perspective of the overall attendance, and the attendance is astonishing. It's really amazing, and I don't know why it's such a contrast between the U.S. shows. It could be that there are a lot of U.S. shows. Capitol Audio Fest. There's several now in California. There's new ones popping up in Texas and Florida. So I don't know that it's just because there are so many shows in the U.S. that they tend to be smaller scale. For me, as a smaller manufacturer, it would be great for me if there were only one or two big shows in the U.S. rather than a dozen smaller shows, because if I would just do one or two big shows annually, I would be able to see a broader slice of the customer base than having to do the small shows. And there's only so many shows I can do during the year. Doing a show is extremely disruptive. Productivity at the factory takes a big hit. They're expensive and they're a lot of work. We can only devote so many resources to doing hi-fi shows. So it's a little bit of a balancing act there. The other interesting contrast between HighEnd Munich and Expona in Chicago is, and it's probably partly because the Munich show is really business to business oriented, is that the sound of the demos is not nearly as good as the sound of the demos at most of the U.S. shows that I've attended. Partly that's also because the U.S. shows are done in hotels, so each exhibitor gets their own hotel room, which can be closed off. You don't have in Munich. They have these huge exhibition halls, and they have walls that don't quite reach the ceiling, and so there's bleed through to suites next door. So you've got music coming in and out. There are huge glass walls in the Munich exhibition suites. So it tends to be harder to make good sound in Munich. But I think also the exhibitors tend to probably be less stressed out about it. Way more business suits in Munich than at Expona, and a lot more money being spent by both by manufacturers and distributors in Munich for sure. Anyway, it's interesting contrast, and this was an interesting exercise because I attended the two shows just a couple of weeks apart. Anyway, it was awesome to see everyone in Munich. If I didn't see you, sorry I missed you. I'm sure there were lots of my distributors that were there that just because of communications and logistics, we didn't get to connect and have a meeting. If I end up walking the show not as an exhibitor again next year, I will try to be more organized and get a better, tighter schedule and try to fit more people in. But it was great. It was a lot of fun, and it was great to see everyone. And it was great to see a little bit of Munich since I wasn't tied to my demo room. I actually got to explore Munich a little bit more. So that was fun too. But the other thing I want to do in this video is one of my favorite things to do. That is something I haven't done in a while. Customer system picks. All right, I'm just going to start at the top. Here is a pick. This is a Gibbon Super 8 and a beautiful vintage 225. This is a 25 watt per channel amplifier, a vintage one. I don't think they ever reissued this one. It's a delicious amp, just a great sounding amp. One of their earlier, maybe the earliest, I'm not sure. I don't know vintage Mac that well, but it's one of their early stereo amplifiers. And I'm sure that is a tasty system. And look at that. It got a Cartier book, a book on Norwegian black metal. Fucking A. There's an interesting contrast. Next image. This is a single Gibbon 3XL. This was the last traditional mini monitor that we made. Maybe a Rega Planet. Looks like a Rega CD player for sure next to it. And I believe that is an airtight ATM1. I think that is a push-pull EL34 amplifier from Airtight under that row of CDs. ATM1 is a fucking great amplifier. Every time I've heard Airtight ATM1s in whatever version I've heard it, they always sound fantastic. Incredibly musical, big, bold sound. They drive all sorts of speakers. ATM1 is an amp that you cannot go wrong with. That's just a really wonderful setup there. Next this is a pair of Orangutan 096s with a lovely fire in the fireplace there, and behind that glowing purple aromatic candle is a stereo audio research amplifier. I don't know, that could be a Ref 80. It could be the Stereo 160 amp. I don't know them. No, it's older than that. Those are not the ghost meters. Could be a Ref 75. Anyway, that's an audio research amplifier with those beautiful backlit meters. It's a stereo amp because you got 2 meters. Just a lovely, lovely environment. You got paintings, you got some birds, landscapes. Just a lovely looking room there. Nice place to listen to some music. Next, we have the next 2 images. So that is a pair of Super 9s flanking another fireplace, and looks like a subwoofer there on the side. The Super 9s look like they've got some outriggers for stability, and then the gear, that looks like a line magnetic amplifier. Maybe it's an 845 single-ended amp. There's an EAR phono section. I love that phono section. Great phono section. A Marantz, I guess maybe that's a Marantz DAC or Marantz preamp, or maybe that's a separate thing in the system. A lovely, well-tempered turntable. That's the plywood stack one. That's just a lovely turntable. Well-tempereds are another incredible value in high-end audio. They're great sounding turntables, and yeah, lots of records there. Another wonderful place to hang out and listen to music. Next system, here's another 096 system, and that is another line magnetic amplifier, and based on its massive chunkiness, I think that is called the 219. That was 300Bs driving 845s, and that thing weighs 1.5 billion pounds. That turntable looks like a Kuzma. I think that's a Kuzma table. We got a nice little poured glass of Beck's there on the little table. What is that? Maybe some salted peanuts. I don't know what that is. Looks like another very pleasant place to listen to music. This next one, this is that's another pair of 096. That's a custom pair in oak. That is white oak. And that's a VTL system. That could be an S200 amplifier, although I'm not positive. And a VTL preamp, that's a DCS DAC there. There's a Macintosh CD player and something called Venom. That's terrifying. A lovely sort of clean system. I like silver. I like silver hi-fi gear. For a while, everything was black, and I really do. I like the clean look. At least as long as it's a good looking design, I like the look of the silver stuff. Here's a very cool photo. So that's a pair of Gibbon 10s. I believe this is a picture from an event down in Austin, Texas. My dealer set up a hi-fi system for some event down there in a book and record store, I'm pretty sure, if I'm remembering correctly. And that's cool. Look at all those records on the wall. If it's not a store, that's an awesome collection of vinyl. Here is another pair of Super 9s. It's a mahogany pair of Super 9s. There's a couple of different amps here. The amp on top looks to me like a Conrad Johnson Premier 11. On the bottom there's a McCormick amplifier. It looks like there's a lot of gear there. I mean, that looks like a VPI turntable. I see a Sim audio piece. There's another tube amp at the bottom that I'm not sure what that is. And then it's either a preamp or an integrated amp from Rogue Audio. Not sure what is connected there, what isn't. I see a piano in the background. That's always a good thing. Pianos are good things for sure. This is a hilarious. I love this picture. It's so funny. Maybe I've shown this before. I'm not sure. This is a pair of original Gibbon 3s. So these went out. This was the first speaker that went out of production for us. Vifa, they were a great driver maker in Denmark. They were bought or consolidated. Basically, Vifa, Peerless, and ScanSpeak all got bought by, or they merged into this company called Timpani, and which I'm pretty sure is a Chinese-based company. Anyway, the Vifa factory closed down and moved all of their stuff to China, and they were not able to make that driver for us anymore. That was a beautiful little 4-inch woofer. So that was a very sudden discontinuation of I remember when we shut that production down. That was probably, must have been 2004, 2005 maybe, 2004 maybe. It was early. We discontinued that one. I believe that's an exposure amplifier, exposure integrated amp there on the floor. Nice looking system, and funny little pom-poms. I don't know if those are acoustical pom-poms on top of the speakers or not. Hard to say. That's just a lovely picture. So, yes, technically there is a speaker in the background there, but look at that gorgeous cat. That's a beautiful cat. And there in the background, that is an Orangutan 093. It is probably a custom maple speaker there. It's possible it's white oak, but I think that looks like maple to me. Custom maple pair of 093s. Here's a cool system, tucked away under the stairs. It looks like everything sort of fits together like a puzzle there. If memory serves, I think they're on little rugs, and I think that the owner, when they really want to enjoy with a better setup, they slide the speakers out on those little magic carpets, and they can get them into a better position. But that's them tucked away, out of the way, in a very efficient sort of ship-shape style home. Just great. It's really nice looking. I love it. Very clean, very nicely fit together room there. Here's a very pretty shot. Here's a pair. These are 096s. This was a pair we did in a very pale robin's egg blue. Again, custom. And they look glorious in that space. A little snake plant there in the corner. Little tube amp. I'm not sure what that is. Looks like 300Bs. Single-ended 300B amp, but I don't know what amp that is. A weird amoeba rug fits right in. Looks great. This is a lovely shot. This is one that a customer sent to me pretty recently. Looks like a branch from a blooming cherry tree. The cherries were all in bloom here in New York pretty recently. That is an 093, and that is a Lieben integrated amp there on the floor. But a lovely system. Books make every room sound better. Books and records on the walls make rooms sound better, and that's a fact. But that's just a beautiful. I love the way the light is hitting that fiddleback figure on that speaker. That's just Very nice picture. And that's the last one. That wraps up this edition of Customer Photo Appreciation. Thank you very much for watching. Hope you liked the video, and I will see you at the next one.